So there are two iterations of Stormrazor that Riot Captain Gameplay, who now has a Twitter, by the way, if you want to go, check them out, follow them and such, did tweet out to the point, and I gotta ask you the question kind of going into the video, so you can think about this by the end of the video as well. What do you think basically about these iterations we're about to go over? Because some of the effects that they allow, I don't tend to use the term busted or broken often. I don't think it has really deep analysis to use that. It is great for titles though. It will make people kind of want to watch your video. But with that being said, like, this might be an example of maybe close to that for once, even in my own opinion. And I'll get into it after reading their tweet. Looking at a few different iterations for Stormrazor revolving around energized procs to emphasize specific attacks in a unique but already existing way. Here are some examples. Wanted to get some wider exposure from players, so feedback, welcome. And the first iteration, basically, both of them, by the way, have 2,800 gold. They build out of, the BF sword, the long sword, and the charge, the energized, what's it called, a shard, dagger kind of a thing. Anyways, 60 attack damage, 35% attack speed. The passive's still the same, moving and attacking will make an attack energized. But for this iteration, the passive for both is called Storm. Your energized attack will deal 65 bonus magic damage on hit, and on the first one, your other energized effects are increased by 30% of effectiveness. So basically, for those that remember back when Static Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon first got their changes, and the Marksman M changes and stuff, things like Caitlyn, Vayne, Tristana even used to kind of build both of them and stack them, and it was so much front-loaded damage, it was really bursty, and then also had crit, so it was kind of really insane to play against. And so that's why I say I don't really use the terms broken or busted, but even back then, even the most fairest and level-headed of AD carry players were kind of like, maybe this is a little bit unfair, because some of these champions already have a bunch of range, and then it's a lot of front-loaded burst damage from that range, and also crits, and DPS and attack speed, etc, etc. Maybe not, because with this, at least you would have to now build a third item to basically get that effect back, because it's basically bringing that kind of the 30% effectiveness back. But you have to build this other item that's almost another 3,000 gold. So before, when Vayne, for example, was meta with it, she actually would just rush both Rapid Fire Cannon and Static Shiv. And I don't remember exactly, but those items back then cost maybe 2,600 gold at most. So maybe 5,200 gold, not even counting boots, sure, but still for basically that effect. And then on something like Vayne with the true damage, it was actually just really good. Caitlyn, meanwhile, was kind of good because she also had the range to really abuse Rapid Fire Cannon with off the get-go, unlike say Tristana or Jinx, who have to even scale the range, right? So this at least would be hey, you also now have to build this item too to at least get back to that point and kind of bump the price tag up to about 8,000 total gold between that. Of course, these dual items have some cost changes right now as well too, so it's not exactly even that cheap anymore, but maybe that's what makes it a bit more fair, and as such, still maybe not broken, not busted. But I thought I'd bring that up to kind of pass it off to you as we go through the video, because maybe that's the balance, right? It's they have to build this, right? You can't get that kind of combination back in the early to mid game because you have to still have 3 items, 2 Zeal items and Stormrazor to be able to achieve that. Now, if it's still not your cup of tea, if what I just said doesn't convince you that it's maybe a little bit more balanced than last time, not only do I totally understand, but there is a second iteration that we're going to go over. Like I said, same gold, same, effects and stuff, same passive name even, but with this second iteration, your energized effects triggers on your first 2 attacks instead of your first, and deals 65 bonus magic damage on hit. Now, this might be the one that, in my opinion, even as an AD carry player, I kind of look at and I'm thinking, if I'm reading this right, it basically means that if you have Rapid Fire Cannon or Static Shiv, it will work for 2 attacks instead of just 1 attack. Maybe I'm not understanding this right. It's totally a possibility. I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. But with that being said, it would basically mean if you're trying to kite somebody, you're playing against maybe an assassin comp, so you want that extra range to try and keep them at a distance, you have 2 Rapid Fire Cannon ranges on you. So on something like a Caitlyn especially, because she can just do it from the get-go, but even something like Tristana, maybe even Jinx, even though she tends to actually build Rune on Hurricane instead of Static Shiv, still, that much range, twice when this charges up, and you gotta remember, Rapid Fire Cannon also charges, increases the charge time of those effects faster when you build it. So you basically have faster charges and also a lot more, bonus damage because of how many more of these attacks you would get out. You get 2 of them instead of 1 of them, literally doubled, right? So that could actually be a little bit insane, especially on something like Tristana, Caitlyn, the things that build Static Shiv, because that means you might get 2 Static Shiv procs twice, 1, 2. That could be, especially because it's also magic damage. I think that's the biggest thing for me that I want to take away from this. And like I said, I'm trying to be unbiased and somewhat neutral even as an AD carry player. So what I'm saying isn't necessarily fact or true, just keep that in mind. But I'm thinking here When you're playing against a fed AD carry, one of the things you can do defensively is, you know, build armor, build omen, especially if you're like a tank, to reduce the crit and stuff. And this is like, well, what if we just gave him like bonus magic damage twice also, which you're probably not itemizing, you know, against if you're playing against AD carries. They're literally called AD carries. But maybe it's a bit fair because, again, like I said in the other one, you do have to build 3 items to get to this point. This isn't like an early game. This isn't just off a Stormrazor rush. You do have to have 3 items total to get it, and that might be what makes it feel a bit better, especially if you have to play against it. Because maybe if you are playing against it as a diver that wants to build at least 1 or 2 defensive items or a full-on tank, you could just immediately be like, before they even complete that combo, I'm going to start building these armor items and stuff. So that way, it's kind of negated throughout the whole entirety of the game. And that if we get to late game, I got full tank items too, so it's whatever. Like, you know, square up, let's go. Or if you're an assassin or something like that, you have like an extra item's worth of time to try and maybe put them behind, assassinate them, and hopefully close the game out before they get to that late game spike, right? Like you're a mid game champion. Hopefully you spike hard enough in the mid game that you just close out the game at that point. So that being said, I just want to kind of interject those things, not because I'm right and not because if you disagree watching you're wrong. It's just some things to think about when in terms of like how this could be balanced. And my biggest fear, of course, with the crit item changes is hopefully, you know, they don't have to nerf the champions or the items afterwards since they come out too strong. So I am a little bit willing to compromise on a couple of things to make sure that's not the case. I would like when these items to release that our champions need to be strong, not too strong that people feel like they're terrible to play against and as such have to be nerfed later. So maybe I'm, of course, maybe have my blinders on a bit to a couple of things that maybe I shouldn't, and as such in the comments section, you know, call me out on it or just have your own opinion and conversation. Basically what I'm saying is if you have a different opinion, you can still comment, it's fine, let's have a conversation about it. And what do you think about this storm item, like Stormrazor I should say, changes? Do you think it actually does make the items actually kind of busted because of what we've talked about? And again, if I'm reading it right, I could be reading it wrong, or do you think this is actually balanced again, like I said, because it is a whole extra item you have to build, it's not like a cheap 2-item power spike, etc, etc. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.